Hi guys, this is George with Harsan Studios, and today we gotta talk about this little monster. This little camera can pack a punch, and when I say pack a punch, I mean it. So let's get to it. So what do I look into a camera for wedding cinematography? When I'm looking to buy a new camera or to change my equipment, I'm looking for a few things. First thing is the form factor and adaptability. That means how heavy it is, how it looks, and how can be integrated with all the rest of my gear like gimbals, tripods, monopods. Second thing is reliability. Reliability is also very important because you want to make sure your camera is functioning properly. It doesn't shut off in the middle of a shoot. It doesn't get errors, so you don't have any issues. So that's an extremely important factor when I'm considering buying a camera. The third thing I'm interested in when I'm buying a camera is the quality of the footage that comes out of that camera. The fourth thing is storage. What kind of storage, how convenient it is, and how much footage can it hold. And last but not least is what do I do with the footage once I capture it and store it. How easy is to edit, how good is the quality of the final product that comes out of that edit. So those are very, very important factors that I'm considering while buying a camera. So is this camera for you, and can you integrate this camera with your workflow? I love this camera so much. I got the first one and I shot an entire wedding with it, and as soon as I was done with it, I ordered 3 more. So right now we're using 4 of them. This is your basic setup that I have right here. The same kind of setup we're using right now to shoot this video. And then we have another 2 setups. One of them, it's on a Moza. It's just a handheld Moza Aircross, very light, very compact. And also a Ronin M, DJI Ronin M that we use quite often. I would say probably 70 to 80% of the wedding I'm actually shooting on that particular setup, the DJI Ronin M. So let's dig a little deeper into those factors that I just talked earlier about, and let's discuss about why do I love this camera and why did I decide to switch to this particular camera. So first of all, the form factor and ergonomics. We are coming from a background of Canon camera. We're still using Canon camera for our weddings as a 3rd, 4th, 5th. We use 6 to 7, sometimes 8 cameras, and all of them were Canon before getting into this particular camera. So for us, this is very similar to a 1DX, I would say, in terms of weight, size, especially this particular setup. So the ergonomics of it and the form factor fit right in with our existing setup. So for us, it was not extremely hard to adapt to this particular form factor and this particular weight and what can this camera be used for. A lot of people on YouTube complain about how hard it is to mount or impossible to mount this camera on gimbals like Ronin M, handheld gimbal, because of the form factor, because it's a little wider. For us, we found a workaround that we did buy a small rig half cage for most of our cameras, and with the plate offset we were able to mount this camera on Moza Aircross, which is the lighter version, carry about 4 pounds. This particular setup right here has got 4 pounds without the battery. The battery we mounted on the side, and it works very well. We used it several times and we're very happy with this particular setup. Another setup that we're using this camera with is the Ronin M setup. On this particular setup, we are not using a cage because we try to keep the setup as light as possible. It's already a little heavier than the other setup, so we put a little more strain on your body. But we were able to mount it pretty easy just with the factory plate coming with the Ronin, and we were able to balance it. So this particular setup is extremely valuable to us, and that's why we use it so much. So being able to mount this camera on the Ronin M was very important to us, and was definitely a decisive factor when we were considering buying this camera. So this camera is pretty much raw power, and you need to do some adjustments and you need to do some attachments in order to be able to make it work for you and to be able to withstand a wedding day workflow. So I would go through a few things that we've done to bring this setup to where we want it and help us go through a wedding day without any issues and being able to capture high quality footage and being able to get so much out of this camera. So this is our basic setup, and it's composed of a half small rig cage, which is very important to have, especially if you want to mount like different batteries, or if you want to do like cable clamps, or if you want to adjust the bottom plate for different setups like this Moza Aircross gimbal. So it's extremely important to have that. The other important thing that you want on this camera is a battery plate adapter. This camera is notorious for draining the battery, so you will need some type of external power, compact external power that doesn't add a lot of weight, and will be able to run it for prolonged periods of time. The second setup that we're using for this camera is the Moza Aircross handheld. This is a fairly light setup, pretty easy to control, pretty easy to maneuver, very versatile in several situations. We use this setup quite a bit for run-and-gun situations, for dancing, for stuff that you have to move a lot. So this particular setup is pretty much like the other setup, our basic setup, except the battery is mounted on the side of the gimbal, so it takes away some of the weight from the top, so you can balance this camera a little bit better. Takes away from the strain on the motors, so it doesn't kill the battery faster, and it prolongates the life of the motors. On this particular setup, we had to do a little adjustment. We add a little extra weight on the side just so you can balance this a little better. So it's minimum weight, so you don't really feel it when you pick it up and hold it. Our third setup is our Ronin M setup, and we do love this setup, and we were extremely happy that we were able to install this camera on this Ronin M. We didn't use any extra parts or alter the integrity of the Ronin M. Everything it was able to be adjusted just from the screws and plate, and the camera fit right in, and we were extremely happy with it, especially because we use it for extended periods of time. It's extremely reliable and smooth. This particular setup, it's a little bit different than the other setups just because it doesn't have the cage. We tried to cut off on that weight. We did put a clamp on top of it just so we can hold the cable, the HDMI cable in place that goes to the monitor, and we're still using the battery pack just so we have extra power, so we can use this for extended periods of time. One of the deciding factors when we were thinking about buying these cameras was integration with our existing Canon cameras and Canon workflow. And these cameras fit right in. We bought Metabones adapter for all 4 cameras, and we can use all the Canon lenses, all the Canon batteries, and the process is just seamless. We still shoot with some of the Canon gear, and we shoot with the Blackmagic right now, so combining them both together was effortless, and it just works for us. So let's talk about reliability. So this camera right off the box is not that reliable because, as everybody knows, the battery life is not that good. You get on a brand new fresh battery about 40 to 50 minutes if you're lucky. Now, the first camera that came out did shut off in the middle of the shoot with like 20% left on the battery, but since then they did some upgrades, some firmware upgrades, and it's definitely much better right now. It will run you for 40 minutes to 50 minutes and will not just die on you in the middle of the shoot and corrupt the file like how we used to do before. So from that regards, they did some improvements with the firmware. However, we did some other improvements with the battery plate. So with this plate, you can use fairly inexpensive Sony MP batteries. This particular battery that we have right here, it's a 5000 milliamps battery. This battery with the battery inside, both together will run the camera for about 3 hours more or less, which is extremely good. One thing that we loved about our Canon gear was the ability to record for extended periods of times on extremely harsh environment, and this camera seems to hold pretty well along our Canon gear. We did record with this camera for extended periods of times, like 2-3 hours. Our weddings are extremely long. We do a lot of Indian weddings, and as some of you might know, Indian weddings have long ceremonies, 1.5 to 2 hours. So we were able to capture footage for 1.5 hours straight with no issues. This camera has a built-in fan, so we're pretty confident that this camera will do pretty well in high temperatures or high heat conditions. So let's talk a little bit about the footage that comes out of this camera. and in one word, it's amazing. The quality of the footage is extremely good. The footage is crisp. You can record on 4K, 4K DCI, and also you can go up to 60 frames per second. And for a camera this size, the quality that comes out of it, it's very good. You can record in different compression, different file sizes for different types of projects or for different types of applications. We record most of our footage in ProRes, Lite, and Proxy, and some of our footage we do record it in RAW for certain application if you want to get more details out of it. And also for some of our commercial projects, we still use RAW just to get the most out of it. The ProRes is 10-bit 422, which gives you a lot of latitude to work with when it comes to coloring and details. And the RAW is 12-bit 422, which can extend that ability even farther. So when it comes to these cameras and any cameras that produce high quality footage, one of the biggest problems is storage and how to store all that great footage. For us, the best option right now is SD cards and also hard drives for some of our commercial projects or situations when we need uncompressed RAW for the best quality possible. So right now we are recording on SanDisk Extreme Pro cards, 256 and 528s. These cards give us a good compromise in between quality and storage. So the quality that we can record on these cards is fairly good compared to the storage, the amount of storage that we need for all our wedding footage, because it does add up from all the cameras. You end up with several terabytes of footage. Right now on a SanDisk Extreme Pro 256, we can record about 40 minutes of ProRes Lite, about 66 minutes of the RAW 12:1, and about 90 minutes of ProRes Proxy. And we did some footage testings, and in terms of quality, the ProRes Lite and the ProRes Proxy, it's not extremely big difference. So, in a situation that you can use ProRes Proxy, we do use ProRes Proxy, and the quality is amazing that comes out of that footage. And for the situation, we do use RAW 12:1, and the quality is even better. The only downside with that is the workflow. We do some same-day edits, so trying to convert all that footage, it does not make it very easy for us. So we try to shoot on ProRes as much as possible, because that's a fast workflow. We're using Final Cut, which Final Cut handles ProRes extremely well, actually better than the regular footage that comes out of the Canon camera, which is H.264, or the footage that comes out of the drone, which is H.265. So the ProRes is just a better altogether format for us to work in, and the quality that we can extract out of that ProRes, it's extremely good, and it's good enough for us for right now. So as mentioned previously, we do film a few terabytes of footage at every wedding. So what do you do? How do you edit all that footage? For us, since we're shooting in ProRes Proxy and ProRes LTE, that footage is fairly easy to be edited in pretty much any softwares. We use Final Cut, we create proxy files, and it handles it very, very well. For other applications, when we use the RAW capability, we take all the RAW into Davinci Resolve, and then we convert it to a proxy that we can work in Final Cut. Then the project from the Final Cut, we transfer it back in Davinci Resolve, and we do the coloring on the actual RAW footage. So it's a little tedious, it's a little more complicated workflow. Blackmagic released a SDK for the Blackmagic RAW for other software to be able to integrate the Blackmagic RAW with their workflow. So I think it's just a matter of time before like Final Cut, Premiere, and any other software catches up and is able to use the Blackmagic RAW. Right now they do have a plugin called B-RAW Studio that you can buy for $30, and this plugin can be used with After Effects, with Premiere Pro and Encoder, only for Windows, to run the Blackmagic RAW footage natively inside without any transcoding. And they're promising they will be out soon with the OS version for Mac. So hopefully we'll get this pretty soon for Mac as well. and that will make the workflow a little easier. You don't have to go through Davinci Resolve to take care of all that B-raw and be able to use all that Blackmagic raw capability and quality for your editing flow. Until then, we'll still continue to film in ProRes most of our weddings and probably some of our events. However, if the time is not an issue and is not extremely big amount of footage, then Blackmagic RAW it's a very good alternative. So is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K for you? I hope this video provides you great information about how to use this camera on a wedding day and help you with your decision if you can use or not this camera on your wedding flow. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for upcoming videos.